Hello everyone, thanks for being here today. Welcome to my talk, Balance of Power, Free-to-Play Game Design versus Product Management. So my name is Lucas Gonzalez. I'm a currently independent game designer and product manager. And I will be talking about this nice and cool relationship that you can also find between product managers and game designers when they are working together in the same project. What I believe we can do to improve it. So just to give a bit of background, I've been around making games around 15 years. I've been 10 years working as game designer in different roles. This is some of the games that I made. At 3-4 years ago, I decided to switch roles, and I became product manager in Septolab. During that time, I managed to release a really cool and successful game, which is Cats. And that was great. But also, I managed to not release another bunch of cool but not so successful games. And when this is happening to you, you start thinking, OK, what could have I done in a different way that I could control to lower the chances that a game is not released? And there are many things. But there was something that was always there and was constantly buzzing in my ear, and something that brings me a lot of headaches, and it was struggling sometimes to find to draw a line between the responsibilities of game designers and about product managers. And I thought, OK, that's me. That's me. I've been game designer for so many years. And now I'm new in this product management area, so I don't know what to do, and blah, 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 blah. But I started talking to people. And I was like, hey, I have these issues. And hey, me too. Yeah, I know what you're talking to me. I know what you're meaning. I realized that I was not alone on that. And there are many product managers, and there are many game designers that they have the same issues than me. So I thought, OK, I'm going to put all these ideas together in a presentation. This is a presentation that I have today. So let me share with you the experience of someone who has worn both hats, the game designer, product manager, that has made a lot of mistakes in both areas. And I think that I can understand better how to make these two different professionals to work together. So I will start describing where most of the issues between product managers and game designers are coming from. And yeah, probably I don't need to do this here, but I'm curious about, of you that are here in this room, how many of you are game designers, or do you feel like game designers? OK? And how many of you feel like product managers, or you are product managers? Oh my God. OK, so thanks a lot. So I think that everyone here is aware of what is a game designer, but still, let me say. So the game designer is responsible for the player's experience, understanding their players and providing them with experience they are willing to play. For many years, the game designer has been working with people that clearly understand this. But then something happened. All this free-to-play, the App Store, the games as service, and a new professional that belongs to a completely different field joined the game development team, the product manager. This professional in their field, it has also pretty standard set of responsibilities. It's what we call this marketing mix. It's to define the product, the price, the placement, where you're going to sell it, and how are you going to be promoting it. So in other words, he was responsible of understanding the needs of their customers and providing them with the product they are willing to buy. And here is when you have the clash. You have the game designers that they are thinking about crafting the experience for their players, the product managers that they're thinking about fulfilling the product for their customers, players, customers, so on. So this is what you have. You have two roles that both believe that they are the ultimate responsible for tailoring the game for their players. And this is bringing a lot of headache when you are developing the game. But I think that these headaches are coming always for three different questions. What you want to do in the game, when do you want to do it, how to exactly do it. So when we are talking about what to add, remove, change in the game, when we are talking about this, the roadmap, yeah? Which features do you believe that should be included or removing in the game because you have some KPIs that you want to reach, and yeah, you need to say, okay, I think that doing this, that, or the other, I will get to them. So for example, you are doing a match-3 game, and your lifetime value is not the one that you're expecting, so you can think, hey, let's add more levels, because levels will add value to the game, and players will behave in a different way, or maybe you can think, oh no, let's have these events that also will work. So, well, you need to make the decision. But then you decide something, and then you need to prioritize, because you don't have unlimited time to do stuff. You have like precious development time, and you need to decide what do you want to do first. So maybe you know that you need these levels, but also you know that your interface is not like the best. So you know for sure that you want to change your interface, but what are you going to be doing first? First, you do the levels, and then in an update, in a few weeks, months, you change the interface, or are you going to go and do it in the way around? And then we go to the third pack of problems, excuse me, is, okay, we have decided what to do, when to do it, so how we're going to do it, because there are like so many ways of actually implementing a feature, and sometimes we agree on the feature, but we have like different expectation about it. So yeah, you have like these levels. Yeah, which are the style of the levels, how many levels you're going to be doing, are you going to implement new features, are you going to balancing the blockers, whatever. Yeah. So this like what to do, when to do, how to do it. In my experience, you ultimately bring to the team to some madness, and it creates like two factions. The factions that is following the game designer, and the faction that is following the product manager. And each faction has a pretty informed view of the other faction. So the supporters of the product manager, they think, no, just the game designer just want to make a game for himself. And the supporters of the game design art, they think, no, just the product manager, they just want to make money, which, by the way, is not a bad thing. So, but the truth is that each one of them, they are just approaching the same problems from their own perspective. And I think that most of these problems could be avoided if each one of the roles understand how he could benefit for working with the other. So let's describe what I believe that each one should understand about the job of the other. Yeah? From the many things, let me point what I believe are the most relevant. So we will start with the great. Okay. So, game designer. What a game designer can learn from his product manager in order to do his job best. This is not only about like learning. Yeah, basically what you're talking here is about, hey, I have this guy who is working with me. I don't fully understand why I'm working with him, but this is what I'm doing. And this guy has some things that he's really good at. So why don't I try to understand these things, because then I can use them for me to do what I want to do, is to create a very good game. So the first thing is benchmarking. Yeah? The product managers, they're always like checking the charts to see which is the most successful game, to check which is the features that the most successful game they're having. Yeah? And then they start like thinking and planning their roadmap, checking the successful metrics of other games. Basically, they know the market. Yeah? So what I will recommend to game designers is you need to get familiar with the most important KPIs. And familiar is not just you know what the meaning of RPU or LTV or whatever. It's that you understand which is a good, for the game that you are making, what is a good LTV? Which is a good CPI or click-through rate? Yeah? Because if you start understanding that, when you are like thinking about the design and what you want to do in the game, you will start thinking, hey, what I can do in my game, for example, to improve the click-through rate. Yeah? The second thing I will say is that they are very good at estimating changes in the metrics. When a product manager is making a decision, he's not making a decision because Sometimes yes, yeah, but usually he's thinking of some metrics that he wants to reach because of these like KPIs from the benchmarks, and then he knows how much he wants to increase the metrics. Yeah? I feel that sometimes game designers, when they are making the decisions, they are more like, yes, we want to improve the engagement of the players. And this is cool, but engagement is like 7-day retention, 30 retention. How much do you expect to increase the retention? Yeah? And this is important. And then what I would recommend to game designers is to practice and to do your own estimations. And then you will get surprised that maybe you see that these estimations from the product manager are much more accurate than yours. You know, you have like 50 new levels, and you believe that these 50 new levels will double the retention. And then you see that no, it's not that much. And if you do that, eventually you will learn to trust your PM when making decisions of priorities. Yeah? And the third thing is product managers, you know, they validate the results because they need to reach the goals, and it's important to realize that they are really in the track to reach them. So when you, I also found that from time to time, game designers, they are like really good at fooling themselves with the results of their iterations. Or so it's like, hey, we make this change in the game, and they focus only on some good metrics that improve. So, I mean, if you are talking about like day 7 retention, and you see like, hey, we make these changes in the game and we increase the retention by 3%. This actually means nothing. Yeah? It means nothing if you know which are you comparing to, if you know the size of the cohort, if you know the media source, if you know when you bought the traffic, yeah? And if you know all these things, you really know what you are doing with the game. And so what I will recommend to game designers is to try to be accurate. And then if you see that you have someone behind you that is very good at benchmarking because he knows what is good or bad with metrics, he can really estimate how a different feature will influence a game, and he is able to validate results, you will know that you can use this knowledge for you. Now let's go to the other side, the product manager. What a product manager can learn from a game designer to do his job best. To me, the first thing is clear. It's like innovating in gameplay. It sounds a bit silly, but the thing is that game designers, they usually put like his soul in the work. So it means that most of the time, like any other like artists, artisans, they are giving their own like personal interpretation about a game experience. So if they are like good, I will say, they don't need to start like stealing so many ideas from other games, and then the experience that they will produce maybe will be unique. So what I recommend to product managers is to try to avoid what is being called the Frankenstein approach. That is, I have like, hey, let's take this from Supercell, this from King, this from Gardenscapes or whatever, and we create a game. Because usually it never works. And so what I will say is like, just let the game designer to try to bring his own view on the design of the game, because copying things may work or not, but at least you will have something original, yeah? And maybe you find some market or some players that you won't find in another way. Game mechanics. When you're changing a game system or game mechanics, sometimes you can bring hidden problems that you cannot detect at this moment. Game designers, they really have a much better understanding of these issues, you know? Because somehow they can like simulate the game in their head, and they can predict things that maybe you don't see at the very beginning. So yeah, maybe you want to have these 4 chests that Clash Royale have, but it's not about the 4 chests, right? It's like Clash Royale has many other systems that is supporting this chess. It has the different like characters, well, the cards, how they evolve, the gacha, many things. And maybe you are just taking the chess and you are not taking all the rest. Yeah? And from my point of view, this is what make game designers like different, understanding how all these things together, they might work. So I'm not expecting project managers to have time to work on as a game designer. But the more experience you can get as a game designer, from my point of view, is something that you can really use for you. So what I'm recommending is just take something small for the game, like a weapon or a screen or something like that, and try to design it. Yeah? So you will get a glimpse of all the issues that you get when you're designing. And the third thing is the players. I feel in my experience that game designers, they try to be more on the shoes of the players than product managers. So yes, game designers are like the champions for the players. Yeah, they really worry when there is something in the game that will change, that they believe they will like change the expectation of the players. So in other words, I think that they really like to respect their players. And sometimes you see examples like this graph that is there. This like very standard is like maybe you do some changes in the game because you want to get some metrics that are like super high, like revenue. And yeah, you will get the revenue because you are like having like offers or being more aggressive with stuff or whatever. But then yeah, you get a maxima. But then what you don't know is what it will be happening is if you keep working in the direction that you were working before. So from my point of view, it's very important to respect your initial vision and try not to go rushing to get like super good metrics in the short term. Yep. So these are like the things I will recommend for product managers to understand from game designers, so they will also understand better how to work with them and what things they can bring to their project. So how do you put all these things together? So how these things are connected with what to do, when to do, how to do? Well, this is my recommendations. To decide what to do in the game, just work on the roadmap. Yes, sit down together, define the the roadmap beforehand. You start with the project, and decide which features you want to have, when do you want to have them. Yes, and sign it off. So yeah, there is a good moment for the product manager to check the benchmarks, to understand which are like the most successful games, which is trendy, everything. You can compile this, but also it's a good moment for the game designer maybe to do not the opposite, but just, okay, we want to craft this experience, so what it will make sense in order to craft this experience, and then work together and set up a roadmap. To discussion about when do we do this change in the game? Yeah, yes, you have the metrics for that, right? If you have, coming back to the previous example, you have this user interface thing and you have these levels. So you do your estimations and just check which is the metric that is more critical to increase in that moment, and which feature you believe it will make more impact in what you are doing. Yeah. So what I suggest is, I think it's good for the PM because of his background to be checking these metrics and choosing which are the features that will have more impact in the metrics, right? And then after, both like the game designer and the product manager, usually maybe you are switching things in the roadmap, and it's a very good moment to update the roadmap. And about defining how to do stuff, just agree on the high level, on feature statements. Yeah, if you are doing a racing game, maybe it's enough to agree, okay, which is the experience, like which is the length of the races, or how many players do you want to play, or how many times a day do you want the players to play, yeah? And then you can agree on these statements together, and then it's the job of the game designer to make this, to implement and design the low level that will support the statements that you have agreed upon. Yeah. So this is what I think that working this way, you will get like the benefits of having like both guys, the product manager and the game designer working together, because each one understands which are the strengths of the other. But this is, we are assuming that we have two professionals that are willing to discuss and learn from the other, right? Because well, well, there's a picture here that basically, because there is sometimes that you find, I mean, in order to plan the roadmap, you need to work together to create this roadmap. In order to define the feature statement, you need to define the feature statement together. And sometimes you find people you know how to work and to talk with, and sometimes not. So I believe that you can ensure that this like product management and game design synergy is working if you take into account like, two things. First, define who will be making the last decision about the roadmap, the statements, and so in case there is no agreement. This also means that you need to define clear responsibilities for each one of the guys and the expectation of the company. You could do this by a clear hierarchy, like the game designer has the last say in the roadmap features. But maybe you can just have some external neutral advisor that is like making these decisions, like stakeholder or the head of department or something like that. But also what is important is that you need to be like sure that you are listening to both, to the product management view and to the game design view. You don't want to be in a position that only one of the two they are like creating the game. And for that, you need to have some kind of method to give voice to two of them. From my experience, what I will suggest is to have some kind of recurring external design or product reviews, yeah? Because if not, you have this hierarchy, and maybe the game designer or the product manager is always like making the decisions, and you don't see that the other guy is taking into account. Because if you only have a product manager and no game design, it's more likely that you will end up with a late clone of a top-grossing game, but you don't want the other. You don't want to have a game designer without product management, because it might happen that you find with a cool, like, personal game, but with a very, like, not very tight or thought monetization. So, my final thought is that during that time that I was like thinking about dividing like responsibilities, I think that eventually something more like this is like there is no escape. In this market, you need the vision and you need the perspective of the product manager and the game designer. This doesn't mean that you always need to have like two guys, no? Maybe to me in the mobile free-to-play market, I will say that an experienced game designer with support from analysts, UA and marketing, I think that can be really in charge of the PM part of the project. And I think that in the future we will see like more and more game designers, in free-to-play at least, that they are moving to these like product management roles. So, and also maybe you are lucky and you have like a really good game designer and a really good product managers, but I'm sure that it will take a while until they are able to work together and use the skills in an efficient way. So, well, I don't believe that this is difficult to achieve, but I will clearly recommend to be checking into that. And yeah, I hope that my recommendations can help you to achieve that. So, thank you very much.